Welcome to episode 6 of Matt Time Podcast. I'm Nick, joined as always by Brock, Brad, and Zach. We're here to preview UFC 244 in New York City this weekend. Jorge Masvidal taking on Nate Diaz. We're going to cover a few things before we get to that. Yesterday morning, we had Ben Askren making his return to the UFC after a brutal knockout against Jorge Masvidal.
UFC Singapore.
Yeah. He fought Damian Maia. I knew it was going to be a tough fight because it was just... It's matchups make fights, you know what I mean? Where I don't think Damian Maia is necessarily the best fighter in the world or the most dangerous, but with a pure wrestler like Ben Askren, I knew this was going to be a tough fight. Not that I didn't think he could win, but Maia's jiu-jitsu definitely served as a big challenge for Ben Askren. He wasn't able to get it done. He got submitted in the second round. Zach, what did you think of that fight?
Well, I mean, if you look at, Usman when he fought Maia
or Covington,
like the way that they won those fights were with good takedown defense and then keeping them on feet and just outboxing them.
Yeah.
And and outworking Maia.
Askren doesn't have that option.
Askren didn't really have that. He I guess he couldn't beat Maia on the feet, which is like we were talking about before, Maia's worked on his hands a lot and they've definitely gotten passable to be in the top.
A lot more than Askren has.
Yeah, to be in the top echelon of the UFC, his hands are good enough to be there as long as he gets
him by.
Yeah, as long as he's able to back that up with his, grappling and his jiu-jitsu.
I knew we were going to see some striking exchanges yesterday. That's why I was really interested in that fight. But
and Askren looked bad at
him. It's really weird because you can't take anything away from his skills because he's won 2 world titles and beaten some recognizable guys, but it was just really weird to see a championship level fighter like that whose striking is just not there.
It makes Anthony Pettis' comments after the Masvidal knockout, it creates more context for them.
What did he say?
He said something like that was really good to see or something like that, congratulating Masvidal.
Yeah.
And if you're coming at a Duke Rufus in Milwaukee and you can't throw a 1-2, your wrestling must just be miles better than everyone there if he can just continually not improve his hands at one of the best striking gyms you've got.
Yeah.
Something's got to be up there.
I mean, how hard does Askren really work? Because he's, a little pudgy and, he doesn't have to be. That guy could definitely... And he's not... Like, Fedor was pudgy. But Fedor had power that
Fedor was explosive.
Right. Askren, not that much, it seems.
He didn't really have the
Even
X factor.
On his takedowns, he doesn't explode through them.
In that fight.
Yeah.
He works and finds them.
Brock, I knew before this fight came to be, and before it really got announced they were talking about it, you were telling me that maybe this was a really bad fight for Ben Askren. I kind of disagreed. I thought Ben Askren might win the fight, but what did you think? Did you think he was going to win yesterday? Or
So, quickly on the Ben Askren, not working harder out of shape thing, I would have to disagree on the fact that even if you went back into his D1 wrestling days, NCAA, top of the tournament, first place, second place, always at the top. He still looked like that.
He's
I'm not
just
saying
built
that he doesn't
like
have
that. Skills. You know what I mean? I think his skills are so good that it makes up for
but
the lack in athleticism.
But he still definitely has the squeeze. He has the cardio.
For sure.
He has all the pieces.
Still have it. Because we have to look at
maybe
the
not the
context of
cardio,
Askren.
but he definitely still has the strength. He doesn't have explosive power, but he has strength. And what I felt like really took away from his ability to learn striking in a very traditional sense is the fact that he's funky Ben Askren. His whole grappling game revolves around him doing weird shit.
Yeah.
And I feel like that hurts his striking because he moves his body so weird that he can't put together. He can't move regularly. That's not his thing. He can't traditionally walk through a fight and step a guy down and walk towards them like that. He's got he moves weird. That's just some guys do. And
what about a guy like Dominic Cruz, who also is a weird,
but here's the thing,
moving guy who's a wrestling base and is strange like that, and he found a way to strike.
Exactly, and that's what I feel like Ben was never able to put together, whether it's a mental thing or a physical thing. Dom was able to create his own style of footwork, or a lot of guys will say like it's the old school boxing, like slipping,
I think that just him taking that time off and then coming into the UFC, which is the cream of the crop in mixed martial arts, is a mistake. Had Askren been in the UFC 10 years ago, he probably would have a lot more success. But we've seen 3 fights so far. The first one, he was as razor sharp close to losing as you can get, and then he wins a controversial stoppage. Granted, Robbie might have been out, he might not have. We really don't know. According to Robbie, he wasn't. So, but Herb did still stop it. Then he gets smoked by Jorge, which really doesn't tell us anything, because it was such a quick knockout. But I mean, it definitely tells us people get flying kneed at all the time. They get, jumping side kicked, like Verdum did against Travis. Yeah, Verdum landed it, but he didn't knock Travis out.
Right.
Very rarely do we see somebody get knocked out like that on that first hit.
I'll give Jorge props, though.
Not since like Cub Swanson getting hit by Aldo have we seen like a
we don't talk about
knee.
That on this podcast.
I know it upsets
How dare
Nick,
you?
But really, like a lot of times when a guy comes out, and
I wanted
that
to
big,
add there.
wild thing.
Aldo threw a double flying knee.
True. All I'm saying is, most of the time when we see a fight get started with a Superman punch, some big wild move, it doesn't work very often. Maybe 2 out of 10, but we saw it work against Askren, and it worked because Jorge knew exactly what Askren was going to dip to try and hit that takedown. Now we've seen Askren lose to Maia, and he looked awful in the feet, and he got handled on the ground. I don't see where else Askren could go.
That's really my next
Inside the top
question.
10.
That's really my next question because he's ranked number 11. Obviously, the rankings will be updated because Maia was number 10 and Askren was number 11 going into this fight. Askren's in his mid-30s now, I think.
Yeah.
So
33, I think, 34.
2 losses in a row. Where does he go? Does he take on another top contender? Maybe somebody? Because I'm looking at the welterweight rankings right now. Might be some favorable matchups. Like there's Santiago Ponzinibbio. It's ranked
That's
number
what
7.
I was gonna suggest.
Yeah.
The Ponzinibbio
But
fight?
does he get that privilege to go back into the top 10, fight someone in the top 10 after 2 losses in a row?
I think he can talk his way there.
Yeah.
Do you think Ponzinibbio versus Askren could sell?
It's
Definitely
not
not
a
sell.
main
It's
event.
one. It's one of those
Do
main
you
card
think he
fights.
could- Do you think he even could mainline a fight night?
I think.
No.
Yes.
I
I'm not
think-
sure.
So.
I do.
I think it's a solid co-main for a fight night or a main
Sure,
card
a co-
on a pay-per-view.
Yeah, it might be able to
but
make
I
into that.
think Ponzinibbio gains enough from it name-wise off of Askren to warrant taking the fight. And I would pick Ponzinibbio to win.
Really?
I think Ponzinibbio is underrated as far as how good he is. But maybe not in the division because it's a welterweight division that is stacked with murderers and killers.
So I think really what we learned here is the UFC is for the toughest of motherfuckers, and we really get hindsight of how well-rounded and sharp your skills have to be everywhere to win fights in the UFC because
inside the top 10 for sure.
Dana White has always said that if you come in with just wrestling, you're going to leave with just a concussion.
Yeah.
And Askren is the
if you come in with
biggest
just
example
striking,
we've
you're
seen
gonna
in
get
a
choked.
long time.
Yeah, you're going to go sleep.
Yeah, that's always been the stereotype is that kickboxers come in, they don't have takedown defense, they're going to get taken down and worked. But we haven't seen as pure of a wrestler of Ben Askren probably ever in the UFC. Maybe like we had to go back to the original days
Shout
of
out
the
to
UFC.
Damian Maia, by the way, with the one-armed rear naked choke.
I was going to bring
You
that
gotta
up
have
when
an
we were talking about
anaconda level
squeeze,
Yeah,
man.
I feel like that is something we need to talk about because we're taking a lot. We're not giving Mai his props. We're kind of like
Talking
seeing
about
where
others.
Askren
I think
is.
Maia is probably the best grappler in mixed martial arts of all time at this point.
And even people were saying that
For sure.
that belt that fight was for the best grappler on the planet belt, like the Masvidal Diaz is the BMF belt.
I think that Maia could fight for that baddest motherfucker title belt. That dude strangles people.
Yeah, that's
His game
fucking nuts.
yesterday was absolutely phenomenal. The way he handled the takedowns,
the jab.
immediately elevated
jab
with
is
the
so
butterflies.
strong.
His jab
Masvidal
was
beats
strong,
him,
yes.
but yeah.
Immediately elevated with the butterflies.
Yeah.
Askren could never plant himself on top. You guys saw the triangle to omoplata reversal.
Yo, I love that
in the
shit.
second round. I
That
think it
was
was.
so-
Yeah, it was in the second round.
Absolutely gorgeous.
He hit a Umaplata sweep.
Askren could not get anything going, and we need to give props.
And
to
then at the
Damian
very
Maia.
end, I mean, Askren was on top, and Maya went for a heel hook, and it was dangerous enough that Askren had to
got
get out of there.
Yeah.
Maya used it as a sweep, cut right through,
To
Askren's
half
non-existent
mount.
guard basically to mount, and then like everybody, they turn their back because they don't want
Maya-
to get punched in the face, and Maya locked in that body triangle. And that was
Maya
it.
does this beautiful thing where he's simultaneously in your half guard, going for your back and mounting you.
Yeah.
So you can't roll one way or the other because your half guard is basically non-existent.
He's
because
not really
it's
even in
Damian-
half guard though. He's in quarter guard because he's pushed your hips to the opposite
Yeah,
side.
it's just his ankle floating.
That's all
in
you
there.
have.
Yeah,
And he's so heavy on top. His hip pressure and all just keeps you mushed. And he uses that
and
underhook
it's so deceptive.
until he gets there, and then you see a lot of times the look on guys' faces where they're like, "Oh no!"
'Cause
Like
That path that
because
he has,
everybody knows. Don't let Damian Maia get on your back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Everybody knows that at this point. The guy's got like 11 rear naked chokes or something like that. In the
Sometimes
UFC.
it's
10 now.
desperation. They give it up.
Yeah, it's crazy. But there's nothing they can do to stop it.
Yeah.
It's like either I stay here and mount and get punched in the face, or like most wrestlers like Askren, I'm going to turn and build the house
Yeah.
to get back up. And Damian
and
Maia,
that's where he made his mistake.
that's exactly what Damian
ultimately.
Maia wants you to do.
Yep.
He's so heavy on your back, and you see the way he body triangled and laid him out like
And
that.
the way that Damian Maia has perfected that path to the back, because he does the same almost exact thing in every fight to get to someone's back at this point. It's
Oh,
this
like from top
beautiful-
half guard?
From top
Yeah.
half. It's a beautiful,
Shout out to
beautiful
BJJ
path.
Scout on YouTube. He's got an
Hell yeah.
awesome breakdown of that, of how Damian Maia cuts through people's half guards and goes and gets to the back from there. Those of you listening who want to kind of get a more detailed description of that, check out that video on YouTube.
So going back to if Askren, like what's his next step, right, from this fight? In my opinion, I believe that when we were originally talking about the fight, I kind of thought, I wasn't too sure, I wasn't gonna say it, but I had kind of thought in my head, and the closer it got to the fight, I really started thinking this. That fight was so in favor of Askren, and what I mean by that is like that fight was designed to be the fight that he can win. It was still going to be an amazing fight, but that was the most realistic fight that he was going to be able to win out of the free fights in that division. And about free fights is in
his area,
free
of that
like
division.
open fighters,
Yeah.
right? With where he's at and everything. That was the only fight, in my opinion, that he was going to have that was going to be a fight that he really stood the most chance in, and it also gave us the most interesting view on the traditional wrestling versus BJJ and who can put what together better, and let's see what happens. And the closer we got to the fight, the more I really started thinking Damian Maia was going to be able to handle him.
I mean, my issue with Askren's game though is, obviously his wrestling is great, but he doesn't.
He makes wrestler mistakes. He gets caught in
he
sloppy
doesn't
triangle
have-
chokes. He gets
Yeah.
caught in just
He doesn't
easy
have
submissions.
the Damian Maia type squeeze,
No.
rear naked choke type submissions. So it's like he's not going to finish the fight with submissions all that often when he's on top.
He's got
And
a
he
hell of
doesn't-
a head and arm choke.
He doesn't have a real savage ground and pound.
No.
You know what I mean? Like John Jones is the example. When John Jones takes you down, he's got such a savage ground and pound that, you're going to take some fucking damage when
Or
you're
someone
down
we're
here.
going to talk about later today a lot, Gregor Gillespie.
Yes. If you have to be able to match your wrestling or your grappling with some type of lethal
Damage
finishing.
You can't hold a
finishing
guy down
ability.
because
You
you get a
can't just
guy
hold a
like
guy down.
Damien that you can't hold down, and then your entire game is thrown out the window.
And because you're not finishing the fight, you continue to give that other fighter chances to win.
Correct.
Khabib, when he takes you down,
You're done.
he beats the fuck out of you. And even if he doesn't finish you, you get up off that mat after that round ends, and you are compromised from the damage that you've taken. And now it's only going to get worse. When you get off the mat with Askren, you might be tired, from being on the bottom.
But you haven't taken damage.
He didn't batter you, though.
No, he'll wear you out. He'll
Yeah,
try
you're
and
worn
drown
down, and he'll
you.
win a decision. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's great. He's kind of like, but if you're going to drown somebody, you have to be able to pour it on in a way to finish them. Another person we're going to talk about later, obviously, is Nate. You know, Nate and Nick, when they're on the feet, you know, they pour it on, and you get tired to the point where now you start taking some real damage, and you can't bounce back from it.
Also on the feet, Nick
Askren
and
needs
Nate.
to be lethal. To be in the UFC and to be successful, you need to be lethal. And that either means that you have to be able to hurt somebody with strikes, whether it's elbows and punches, and kicks on the feet, obviously, or ground and pound, or submissions. You have to be able to take people out.
Maya requires you to have something to make him not be able to be comfortable when you are grappling with him. You need because you've seen with Covington and Usman that if you are controlling, and I mean even Colby, who doesn't throw as much ground and pound as Kamaru Usman, who just will beat the shit out of you.
Yeah, I mean, Usman puts you down and he pummels you while he's down. He puts in work when he's down there.
But the point is, this doesn't show that wrestling or jiu-jitsu one's better than the other, because we've seen wrestling beat Damian Maia just the way we've seen Damian Maia beat wrestling. But you have to put more than just grappling.
It's the equation, right? It's really breaking it down to who can utilize their skills better. And I mean, that's obviously what it always is.
Anti-wrestling beat Maia.
Okay.
See, I mean, Usman and Colby, they used anti-wrestling. They used takedown defense and striking to beat Maia.
Rory McDonald did that as well.
Right.
Rory as well, yeah.
Keep it on the feet.
If you take Damian down and you hang out in his guard, you're gonna get sweat.
No good.
Which is get sweat
or strangled.
Which is what Askren did so well in the first round. 4 minutes of sloppy bullshit on the feet, back and forth, could have been either fighter. Askren gets the takedown in the last minute, probably secures the first round. But he wasn't able to maintain that because by the third round, he was way too into his grappling or felt too comfortable or felt like he needed to grapple more. And when you take Damian Maia down with 4 minutes and 2 minutes left in a round, you've signed your death warrant. Unless you're lucky as hell or you're Rory McDonald, he survived.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Rory's got great jiu-jitsu.
Or anti-jiu-jitsu.
Or, anti-jiu-jitsu,
But
exactly.
see, we never say anti-jiu-jitsu, but we say anti-wrestling a lot. But anti-wrestling is wrestling.
Right.
So
And
wrestling in reverse.
And jiu-jitsu defense is
jiu-jitsu.
Is jiu-jitsu for 100%.
So
I'm interested to see where both these guys go. I think Damian Maia might still have a title run in him. I think he looked phenomenal last night. I'm also interested to see where Ben Askren goes. I'm interested to see where his mind is and what he wants to accomplish in the next few fights. But we're going to go ahead and move on to the card this weekend. UFC 244, a fight that we didn't think we were going to see initially because of
had a little bit of USADA scare.
USADA shenanigans, I will call them. So
USADA.
Let's get into that first. So basically, long story short, Nate Diaz put on Twitter last week that he would not be showing up for the fight against Jorge Masvidal because of tainted supplements.
A tainted multivitamin? Is that what you're saying?
Some sort of tainted supplement that they had seen before.
#vegan.
From Neil Magny.
Yeah.
And I believe it's also something that Tom Lawler got 2 years for because they weren't able to...
I do want to get into that. I'm glad you brought that up, Brad, because a lot of fighters, after Nate Diaz was found, not guilty, he's allowed to fight this weekend, a lot of fighters are pissed off.
There was a big uproar,
Tom Lawler's pissed off. Sean O'Malley's pissed off. All these guys that got caught with these tainted supplements.
Sean's been shelved for, what, a year and a half now?
Yeah,
so,
he got 2 years.
I'm not saying I don't agree with those gentlemen that maybe this is like unfair treatment, but I feel like this decision to have Nate Diaz fight was the right decision.
It's 100% the right decision.
They
shouldn't be mad at Nate. They should be appreciative of Nate that he's going to pave the way for changes.
Well, the problem is
they're targeting the wrong guy. Yes.
I don't necessarily know if
their anger
most
should
of the
be
guys...
directed at USADA, not at Nate.
For sure. USADA is not a fighter's friend.
Exactly, and I think that's the biggest issue is that when USADA bans somebody, or in this case, Nate basically outed himself. USADA hadn't said anything about it. He outs himself to better, I feel, to better the rest of the community almost. I mean, afterwards, I mean, you see USADA starts posting things, oh, well, now we're going to allow him to fight this weekend. We found out it's this multivitamin. It's been tainted. It's happened in the past. It wasn't on purpose. It's such a low amount. It's not going to affect anything, blah, 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 blah. Well, when you got a guy like Sean O'Malley who had very similar issues. You had
Neil Magny
and obviously,
and Tom Lawler.
to be fair, none of those guys carry the same name as Nate Diaz
That
because that's a
shouldn't
Diaz
be the
brother.
bar, though.
Exactly, and that's the issue that so many people had with USADA. Because Nate made that headline news, USADA, they did everything they could in their power to change that and make it right.
Do you know what USADA says?
What's that?
USADA says that our tests now are better, so we can test the levels more precisely, and we can tell that these new people's testing like this are not intentional use, and it's from a tainted supplement.
Which
is
it's
a
really
fine excuse, but they're not apologizing to someone like Tom Lawler. His suspension isn't lifted or reneged or anything like that. Ask Josh Barnett how well it is to go up against USADA.
Right.
Because it costs you tons of money because they are
Ask
not there
Nick
to help
Diaz. Banned for
The
life.
fact that they're saying their testing's improved and they can differentiate these things proves that they weren't ready to be in the UFC in the first place. I'm sorry,
Another issue is I believe that whenever they take do they still do piss tests or do they do blood now? They draw blood?
I think they do both.
They do blood and urine. Sometimes hair samples.
Okay, whichever they do, I don't know what their like main standard is, but I've always been under the impression, at least I've read, that they take more and they hold it. Whatever they
they
test
do
you
that
for,
now.
they hold
you're
it.
supposed
They have
to
an
be able
A
to-
and a B, right?
Yeah.
So why are they not? If this is true, that their technology's better, they can find out more. They have so much more information. They can genuinely test the levels a lot better. They can get a better grasp of what's really happening.
Use those
Why
old
are they not
samples.
going back to the B samples
Oh, I think they are.
and retesting these
I think
guys?
they are. Yeah.
They're not exonerating anybody, even if they are going back and testing those samples.
Well, I would imagine they probably went back and they tested Nate's other samples for this, and they probably found that those levels are, probably consistent. They probably weren't any higher for whatever this metabolite or whatever the hell, he
Right.
popped for, and know that he wasn't, intentionally using. I think that would, if anything, benefit his cause.
Yeah, it's
Definitely.
great now that they can tell that Nate wasn't intentionally using. They even know what it was. But if you're only catching guys, I mean, I can think of one guy they've caught doing something major in USADA, and that was Dillashaw with the EPO.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a
And
big one.
You think Dillashaw's the only guy using EPO?
No.
Dillashaw, there was an offhanded comment when Dillashaw got caught. It's like, oh, they can find that now, or something like that.
Yeah.
Right now we
and Dana
know.
didn't even know that they couldn't find EPO, which is insane. It's like one of the
Well, I'll
most.
tell you
yeah.
what, if Nate is on anything, it's got to be EPO. That guy's
That's
cardio
probably
is
it,
out of
right? Yeah.
control.
No, but
He's
their
definitely
cardio
not on-
is the most organic cardio you can. They do fucking triathlons
They
and
do.
marathons.
They do,
Yeah.
and that's the thing is nobody
Their
else is
cardio
doing
is
that.
the most organic cardio in the game.
They're swimming, they're
Biking,
doing
running,
marathons,
yeah.
they're biking.
Running fucking hills in
Yeah,
California.
and that's
The
the,
only
thing that none of
person
these other
that's
guys are
got
really
that
doing.
type of
High out of their
cardio
minds.
is Tony
Yeah.
Ferguson.
And he's
And
doing that
Tony's
same
doing
type
that
of
shit,
shit.
too.
He's doing that same shit.
Swimming up
Colby
rivers.
does that
and
shit.
Yep, swimming through
Zach,
sand.
earlier what you were
Okay,
saying. Hold
that's
on.
swimming upriver bullshit.
Now, was that Habib or was that Tony, that video?
That
Who
was
this video?
Khabib
Khabib,
fucking
yeah.
drowning in that video. Yeah. That's not swimming upriver.
No.
That's a motherfucker barely not
Doggy
dying.
paddling. Yeah.
Homie is drowning.
He did not look like Michael Phelps out there.
You guys
No.
ever heard that Daniel Tosh joke because he's talking about Michael Phelps and he's like people are saying he was heroic. He's like, oh, swimming, you mean the thing you naturally do before you die? That's like,
Right.
That's what Khabib looked like. He's like,
Yeah.
I'm drowning.
Yeah.
But to wrap up this USADA subject, like I was saying, just because Nate Diaz isn't getting punched the same way these other guys that we're talking about, Sean O'Malley, I don't think that punishing him the same way is the right thing. It's one of those
Definitely
two
not.
wrongs don't make a right.
Definitely.
Those guys were fucked. They should not be fucked. Nate
should be able to
Diaz
fight.
should be fighting this weekend, which I'm glad he is. But we're going to move on. We have ourselves a fight this weekend, and we have a good-ass fight this weekend. Moving on to the actual fight itself. Jorge Masvidal, the giver of the knee to Ben Askren that we were talking about, going against Nate Diaz.
He delivered him from consciousness.
Brock,
Street Jesus.
I haven't heard what you have to say about this fight. I've talked to Zach about it, obviously, because we're betting on it. But what do you think?
Well, I'm a big Nate Diaz fan.
Yeah.
I like me some Masvidal. It's really tough. Like a lot of these main events, I'm always like, dude, it's a toss-up. I think I'm going to solidify with this one and say Masvidal is going to get it done just because he's had a little bit more. He's obviously been more active. I was very impressed with Diaz's win over, who was it, Pettis, I believe?
Anthony Pettis,
His
yes.
last fight was Pettis. I was very impressed with that win, but I think that Jorge has, it's your East Coast versus West Coast gangster, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm always going to go with my East Coast boy. And I think he's going to be able to get it done. I think he's got the grit. He's got enough wrestling to fight with the grappling of Diaz, and I don't even think that's going to be a factor realistically.
No, I think it's
They're
on the
gonna try
feet the
to
entire
knock
time.
each other's head off. And I would definitely say Jorge's got more power, right?
Yeah.
He's definitely got the power punch, but like we were talking about earlier, Diaz has that. He's not going to hit you hard, but he's going to hit you so many goddamn times that it's going to make you tired, and they're going to start hurting. Because you start putting your guard down, you're getting beat on. That's how he beats you. I think Jorge, he's tough. He's got a chin. He can hit hard. If he can pressure Diaz, keep the pressure on him, try to keep control of the center of the cage, keep him on the cage, just keep pressuring him with the power strikes. That I feel like that is how he's going to win that fight. That's how I think he will win that fight.
Well, with Nate Diaz, this is something he does really well, and they were even talking about it because Michael Johnson fought on Saturday in Singapore. They were talking about how he was goaded into a brawl with Nate Diaz, and that's something he does very, very well. Maybe he's going against a better technical striker, but he makes them fight his fight.
Definitely.
So, Brad, I had a couple questions for you. Do you think Masvidal is the type of guy that will fall for that, where he'll fall deep into Nate Diaz's mental game, start getting into a brawl that he doesn't want to get into? And this is, Nate Diaz is now a top 10 welterweight contender, beating Anthony Pettis, who's beaten the likes of Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But you have to take in mind that Anthony Pettis is really a true lightweight, and so is Nate Diaz. Do you think that Nate Diaz can hang in the welterweight division?
So you worded things interestingly at the beginning. I do think that Nate will bring Masvidal into a brawl. I don't think it's a brawl Masvidal doesn't want.
Sure.
I think Masvidal wants to be in there and brawl too. Mm-hmm. And you're right. Size could be the major factor in this, because as much as everybody wanted to bring up that Nate was bigger than Conor, trying to say that Nate was a welterweight, he's barely won any welterweight fights. He's a true 55er. Maybe one of those tweeners that should really have a 65-pound division. But the way I see it, unless I see Masvidal looking way bigger than him day of, which I don't actually think he is.
Masvidal is a guy who also fought at lightweight as well, but I think welterweight has served him a lot better in his career. Yeah,
for sure. But I think Diaz's boxing is sharp as fuck.
Yeah.
He's got this, it looks sloppy because he throws, it's like he's throwing change-ups. He's throwing half speed. He's throwing breaking balls. He's throwing at off tempo, off time, and he's just, the volume builds up, but it doesn't come 1 2 1 2. You got 1 2 3 1 2.
Mm-hmm. It's sheer volume. What we were talking about earlier is like, he's a cardio machine, and he uses that to his advantage. It's
volume with a purpose and in a way that isn't predictable.
Yeah.
Because the guy coming at you just with punches and volume is great, it's good, but it's defendable and counterable. But you can't time Nate like that where you can duck and double leg him. And that's probably not a great plan against Nate anyway. Mm-hmm. But he's just got a weird flow that, to his boxing, I think confuses a lot of people and is really a part of how he puts it on people, and is why I'm going with Nate in this fight. I think Nate's boxing can confuse and overwhelm Jorge into the 4th and 5th round, where he can really drag on the fight and get the decision.
That, in my opinion, I believe he's almost always going to be the favorite. I don't know how the odds look for this fight.
I think Masvidal is actually the favorite.
I would imagine, like, at least in my head, I always view him as the favorite when it's a 5-round fight, because that's when he really gets to do what he wants to do. Mm-hmm. When he has 3-rounders, not necessarily the best for his game plan and how he works. He's that guy who's going to finish in the 4th or 5th. Sometimes the 30 gets in the way, but he beats on guys and beats on guys and beats on guys, and breaks their will to live and then takes them out. And I feel like that's what's going to benefit him in this fight more so than Masvidal.
Well, I think if Masvidal, his game plan to win, if he's going to win a decision, I think he will have to kind of implement the George St. Pierre style of victory over a Diaz brother. And that is, I'm going to hold you down for most of the fight and win a
And he
decision.
can do that. He's got good wrestling.
He could do that, but
got
I don't
pretty good wrestling.
see that in his
But I don't see that in his game
personality.
plan.
I don't see that either. If he's going to not win a decision, he's got to knock Nate out, which is
Difficult
possible,
to do.
but very difficult to do. You know, the Diaz brothers, I mean, they're hard to kill.
Cardio is
so-
so important in being able to take a shot.
Either he's going to have to kind of come out with a game to win a decision. He's going to have to come out with a game plan that none of us expect, which would be, you know, I'm going to hold you down and stay in top position and just rain down punches, and not get submitted. Otherwise, like you were saying, when it gets in, he's got 2.5 rounds to knock Nate out, most likely, before
the attrition.
before the power and the explosiveness fades away, and now you don't have the power anymore to put a guy like Nate away, and now it becomes, you know, who can put the volume on and win these last rounds to get a decision victory. And then, you know, and obviously I think the whole time you're going to have to be ducking and dodging submission attempts. You
If
know,
you're
we
on
saw
the ground,
with,
yeah.
we saw with Pettis, you know, Nate looked to take the back quick. And Pettis' jiu-jitsu is good.
Yeah.
Jorge's jiu-jitsu is good, but is it Nate Diaz good?
I don't think a lot of people's jiu-jitsu is Nate Diaz
I don't
good.
think so either.
It sounds weird, but I would maybe say that as good as he is, and as good as I know he is, and a lot of people know he is, maybe he's a little underrated, right?
Nate's
At least
jiu-jitsu?
in the
His jiu-jitsu?
at least in the like casuals' eyes. I feel like a lot of people just know him as the guy that knocks people out, or he's the guy that beat Conor, and
Right.
yeah, he choked out Conor, you know, but I still feel like it's not as respected or as appreciated
It's
as
because
it
he doesn't
should be.
use it as much.
And it's
you know?
kind of like
In a way that
yeah.
Cowboys guard is underrated.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, because it's just not something you see enough because he's good at so many other
Though, is,
things.
I mean,
But
when you
it's-
pull up Nate's record and you look at how many submission victories he has,
A
and
lot.
some of the highlight ones he has, you know, we all remember the triangle giving up
Kurt
double fingers,
Pellegrino.
giving up double middle fingers and stuff like that. He's got some very famous highlight reel submissions, but you're right, it's underrated.
It became a thing where early in his career, people didn't know about his guards, so people were taking him down. So he started submitting people, and then his opponents were studying tape and not taking him down, so he had to start using his boxing more. So the image of his jiu-jitsu kind of faded away.
What's Jorge's?
I would agree.
You know, Jorge's got to come out with that leg kick.
Yeah.
But but how much does he use it? You know, Jorge's
Man.
not a boxer.
Nate does not respond well to leg kicks, man. He doesn't check kicks.
He did against Pettis.
He did.
And I think Pettis hurt himself.
Definitely.
Pettis
checking.
broke
He
his
broke
foot.
his foot. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's that. I even said going into that fight, I believe, I'm like, man, Pettis is gonna have to chop his legs down, really make it a like.
That's
make
always
it
the
his
game plan
fight.
against Nate Diaz. Always,
But now
always,
he's
always,
checking
always.
kicks,
But he
so-
start. I guess you're right. Yeah.
So, you know, that's something small that he could have tweaked that really throws a monkey wrench in other people's game plans against him.
So to gauge the room on how the fight ends, Zach, you picked Diaz. How do you think he gets it done exactly?
I'm going to say Diaz submission late.
Yeah, late.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Brad.
Jorge gets tired
Okay.
in 4 or 5, potentially. And then as Jorge gets tired, Nate will drag him down and grab a choke.
Brad.
I see it that way.
I see it very similar to Zach. Either Nate late with a submission or even just a battering on the feet. But I see Nate winning 3, 4, and 5 pretty handily. With
I wouldn't be surprised if he loses 1 and 2.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, I don't expect Nate. To
That's
win 1
honestly,
and
I think
2.
we all can agree on that, right? Like
I
Masvidal's body of work's gonna be early in the fight,
Unless
and
Masvidal knows this and alters
And
his
Masvidal's
game plan where
smart.
he's like, I'm going to hold back some too.
try to coast
because
a
I
little bit
know
in the
that
beginning.
Nate's going to turn it up, you know, come the end of the second round. We could see that, you know, Masvidal is a smart fighter, and that's why, you know, this is going to be an exciting one.
It's going to be a very exciting one. But yeah, I see it probably a Nate decision or maybe a stoppage late. Senor Broccoli.
Got 4 words for you. First round knockout. Masvidal.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah, I'm
You
going
think so?
wild here.
I'm
think-
not ruling out the possibility.
I think that if the fight goes how I want it to go, they're gonna come out trying to knock each other's faces off.
Yeah.
And what, Masvidal was like a big
And
right
Masvidal's
hand?
just
Sweeps
gonna hit him with the mollywop from downtown Miami.
Yeah, downtown
And
Miami.
just hit him with the
Fair
Vice
enough.
City and just sleep him.
Vice City.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we all can agree that that's probably how it's gonna go. If it goes 5 rounds, we're gonna see a good body of work from Masvidal early, and then Diaz coming on late. We might see a change of game plan from Masvidal. We might see a change of game plan from Nate, where maybe he comes on early. That's why I like this fight so much, and really, I'm predicting this might be fight of the year. If this goes all 5 rounds,
Could be.
I have a feeling in my heart it's gonna be like one of like Israel Adesanya versus
Has Jorge ever
Kelvin
fought a
Gastelum.
5-round fight?
Yes, a couple of them.
Sure, yeah.
Benson Henderson comes to mind. Yeah,
Those
But-
are 5-rounders.
yeah. So my ultimate prediction, I think that Masvidal is gonna put in a heavy body work in the early rounds. I think he takes a 5-round decision. I think it's gonna be a great fight. But we're gonna move on to the co-main event.
Kelvin Gastelum. and
Kelvin
Darren
Gastelum
Till.
making his return,
Woo!
since his interim title fight with Israel Adesanya. I think that was back in February.
And a Darren Till coming off of 2 losses.
Two losses,
tough
and now he's
losses.
trying to reinvent
But
himself at
moving up to
185.
185.
Yes. So
But, I mean, we haven't seen a lot of success recently
yeah.
out of that. You know, we saw Rockhold and
I think
And,
Rockhold and Weidman have
Weidman,
different
yeah.
problems than just
But
weight cut.
I agree with you. I don't think that we can use a judge of guys jumping up in weight. We can't use those two. We can't use Rockhold and Weidman as a gauge of how good or bad it is for a guy to jump up a weight class. Because Darren
Especially-
Till is so young. He's 26, right?
Yeah.
yeah. But
He's
Kelvin's
not in
that
his
old either.
30s.
Everybody thinks that Kelvin's
No,
like
I'm not saying
35.
no.
Kelvin's young,
No,
too.
but I'm saying you got a guy like Weidman and Rockhold who are jumping up and bouncing around doing all these things so late in their careers that it's not gonna benefit them. Weidman's at the point where his chin's starting to deteriorate, and then he's gonna jump up a weight class to guys that hit harder.
Right.
And maybe they're not faster, they're just as fast, or maybe we'll even say not as fast, but
Rock-
they hit just as hard.
Rockhold's got no chin to deteriorate, so there's that.
You can't get wheel kicked by TV or Belfort and expect to have a chin afterwards.
But a guy like Darren Till's still young.
I would disagree. Ask Michael Bisping.
yeah, but I
He won
mean,
that strap, son.
he did win the strap, but he won the strap without getting bombed on. Well, Dan Henderson did bomb him.
And
Yes,
he
did.
got up.
But it's old Dan Henderson.
And he did it with one
He did
eye.
it with one eye. I mean, Michael Bisping, a bad motherfucker. I'm not taking anything away from
They
him.
might as well not even have that bad motherfucker belt. They might as well just hand it to Bisping.
Well, for a long time, I said that the baddest thing I'd ever seen in a cage was Benson Henderson fighting with a toothpick in his mouth.
Yeah.
And after that, but then after seeing what Bisping did, he fought with one eyeball. So he
one
wins.
eye.
I
Bisping
gained so much
wins
respect for him.
forever.
He
But
wins the baddest.
it's
dude
interesting
in there.
because I do agree with Darren Till's move up to 185, and
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how he does against the guys at 185. Not that I'm taking anything away from Kelvin Gastelum because he almost beat Israel Adesanya, but to this day, I will say I think he should be 170 pounds.
Do you think Darren Till can stop the Gastelum takedown?
No.
It's not a good look then.
I don't know. Gastelum's a fucking freight train.
Yeah.
He is.
I don't care who you are, what weight you are.
He's
And
kind of like Rory McDonald when we were talking earlier. That people seem to fight their best fight against that guy for some reason.
Cause you fucking better.
Well, yeah, you better, but we've seen guys who are great, you know, have fights where they're just off that night. You know, Cowboy's an example. You know, we've
For
seen
sure.
fights where we all know that Cowboy's great and he's a Hall of Famer. Pettis is another example. But Connor, you know, we've even seen where it's just like, this is not your night and you just don't have it. It's like the opposite with Gastelum. It's like when people get in there with him, they always are fighting their best fight.
He's
It's
one of
like
those
he catches
guys that-
everybody's 100% every time.
For
It
whatever
sucks.
reason, he's one of those guys that
Can't
he
get a night off.
right, and
Can't get a freebie
he
every
he
now and
always
No.
I don't know
He
on
never
which
gets a
end it
freebie.
is, if it's
Why
on
didn't
his
give him a
opponent's
nap?
end or it's his end, but he always the fight's always elevated, right? That might be the best Israel Adesanya we've seen.
then. Yeah.
Maybe even better than he was in the Whitaker fight, right?
Maybe.
I mean, it was a better fight.
Right. And that's what scares me about having Till go in there. This is what makes me believe that Gastelum is going to get the victory. Is Till's coming off 2 losses. He's trying to reinvent himself. He had a lot of stuff going on in his life, like drama
Yeah.
and stuff. And
I think Gastelum takes one home for the bag.
I was very impressed when he beat what was it? He beat Wonder Boy
He beat
by
Wonder Boy.
decision.
After watching what Woodley did,
Yeah.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
The way Woodley controlled him on the ground and all that.
It makes me think that that's exactly what Gastelum's going to do. And I think that Gastelum drags it out maybe into the second or third, end of the second, mid
I could
third,
see some
and
pretty
gets a
savage
finish.
ground and pound.
Exactly,
Gastelum in
and
this
that's
one.
what I'm
Here's
going
my
with.
here's my
That
take, and
10 plan
you can call this
jiu-jitsu.
a hot take. I'm not very impressed by Darren Till. I'm just saying it like it is because, he does have a win against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
But now a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Some
And that
people
was
some
a-
people
that was
disagree
a
with that
close
decision
fight.
though. Some people disagree with that.
I didn't score that for Till.
Big John McCarthy went on record saying that was a bullshit ass decision. I don't know because it was just such an uneventful striking match. I think Darren Till found a perfect opportunity to go on a hot streak, and it wasn't even that big of a hot streak.
I mean, who was
And
it?
it was just
Literally
the right
Cowboy and
point and right
Wonder
time.
Boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He found himself in a title shot when
The division was weak.
the division was weak. Kamaru Usman wasn't there yet. Colby was still recovering from his loss to Warley Alves, I
Woodley
believe.
had kind of.
He
cleaned it out
was
a
in the
little
right
bit.
place at the right time.
Robbie's not a big name in it
I-
too
I
much.
He
don't
definitely
see-
was
Askren
not
wasn't
ready.
there.
Askren's not there.
He's
yeah.
not ready. Yeah, he's young, so maybe I'll give him that benefit of doubt. Maybe he can work on his skills. But right now, I do
needs
not
to
see
grapple a
Darren
lot.
Till as a title contender. I think Kelvin Gastelum is going to beat his ass.
Yeah,
Kelvin
I agree.
Gastelum is the title gatekeeper.
Yes.
If you can beat him, you can get a title shot.
Yeah.
For sure at this point.
I
You
almost
know, he's the measuring
always
stick if you're ready to fight the champ.
I almost always pick Kelvin. I've been a fan of Kelvin since The Ultimate Fighter. When he came in, he was like 19. And just last pick, Team Sonnen came all the way through.
Yeah.
With
I lo-
Uriah
my favorite
Hall
season,
on
The Ultimate
there.
Fighter. Yeah.
Yeah, the last good season of The Ultimate Fighter. But with Uriah Hall there and Kelvin basically competing for knockouts through the house until they go to the final and put on one of the best Ultimate Fighter finale fights for a championship I've seen. That was a hell of a fight. And, Uriah Hall hasn't been right the same mentally since then. Honestly, he had his mindset sort of straightened out through the house, and then he's had his same mindset issues. And Kelvin skyrocketed because he's a fucking tank.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going with Kelvin by decision.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I think Kelvin wins this
he's gonna
fight.
hold
I
him
think I
down
got him by
and wail
TKO.
on him. It could be
Later
TKO.
round TKO. I think
Yeah.
I'd go with.
I don't see Darren Till offering Kelvin Gastelum anything he hasn't seen before. He's faced tall strikers, and he's faced guys that he can take down. I feel like
And I don't see Kelvin getting knocked out.
I don't see Kelvin
I
getting
think
knocked
I
out.
think Till has to do that.
Yeah.
to
Yeah,
win.
I do
to
think
to play devil's advocate, Till's bigger
Yeah.
than Kelvin
Sure.
by a
He's a
lot.
right.
Yes, he's a gorilla. That's his fucking name, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got
So
reach on Gastelum.
if he can use his reach and drop a couple hammers, it's perfectly possible for him to stop
Kelvin's hard to
Kelvin.
knock out that.
Kelvin
out
is
though.
fucking difficult to hit, let alone knock out.
Yeah.
He's got some of the best head movement in the
Yeah.
pocket in
And a giant
in
head
the
on top of
division.
it. So even when you do hit him, he just absorbs it.
Yeah.
Like Israel hit him with some bombs, some really clean shots, and Kelvin just rolled with it.
He eats them, man. He
Eats them and kept
that
kept
big old
coming.
head of his.
Right. But like Brad said, he does have really good head movement and good
He's got
defense.
ridiculous
So
head
he
movement.
could definitely, and I kind of see him pushing Till up against the cage.
Yep.
And making
sure.
it that type of phone booth type
Yep.
fight. And Till likes to throw real snappy punches and stuff.
He
and
wants to be on the outside.
wants
If
to be on the
Till
outside.
can somehow circle and keep it on the
Yeah.
outside, use his range, teeps and jabs, and throw that big power shot in there
But that's
every now
what
and then.
Israel wanted to do, and Kelvin still made it a slobber knocker.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And almost
but
put
Israel,
Israel out.
but Israel doesn't care if you go to the phone booth.
That's true. He will fight in
Yep.
there. That's true.
That's how he beat both Kelvin and Whitaker.
Yeah, because he throws those short elbows and stuff when he's inside too. It's a
My
big
my
elbow.
His hooks are real good.
my prediction for this fight. Well, my prediction for Darren Till's stint at middleweight, I do think his game is going to be elevated, but I think he's going to spend most of this fight on his back. And I think
I
it's
feel
going
like
to be.
this is a terrible.
This is gonna be an eye-opener for
debut for Till at
Yeah.
middleweight.
I see a dominant 3-round decision for Kelvin.
I think we'll
I feel
all
like
pretty much agree
yeah.
with that,
Yeah,
but
we
I don't
agree
think
on
this
that
is the end of
Oh,
Till
I
at
mean,
middleweight.
Absolutely
you're
not,
Definitely
no.
getting thrown to the wolves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At 185, having to fight
Yep.
Kelvin Gastelum.
Yeah.
so.
So then we got the Wonder Boy.
So my people's main event here, right? We got Corey Anderson versus Johnny Walker.
Surging Johnny
Worm,
Walker.
The worm, labrum, snapper Walker. Right? He's been on a tear.
That's the
knocking
next fight
people
we're gonna
out,
have,
TKOs. That's next.
Thompson
Okay.
Luque's after that.
Yep.
So we got Corey Anderson, Johnny Walker. Both of them have a decent little streak going. We have Corey Anderson with a win over Glover Teixeira and Alir Latifi. We have Johnny Walker, who just came off a 15-second knockout over Misha Cirkunov, where he took more damage in his celebration than he did in the fight.
Yep.
And
Right.
he beat Khalil Roundtree, didn't he?
Yes.
Khalil Roundtree 2 fights ago, I believe.
Yeah, it was his UFC debut. He
So
did
they
that.
moved
Yep.
up that fight from the prelim?
I'm not sure if it was on the prelims or where it was.
Because right
but,
now they got Corey Anderson and Johnny as the main event on the prelim.
Okay, yeah, they must have bumped it.
Yeah. The
It
problem
belongs
is they
on the main
change them
card.
around all over.
It
the
does.
place.
It's a great
It definitely
fight. We
does.
can definitely talk about it.
I'm just gonna go out and say I've got Johnny Walker TKO.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go second round TKO.
I got Johnny Walker by flying, spinning back, moonwalk, somersault kick.
Is he gonna land
I mean,
two kicks
I-
while he's in the air, like some kind of Tekken game?
Yeah,
I
like
could definitely
that.
see Johnny Walker winning that fight, and I kind of hope he does because somebody's got to be able to fight John Jones.
Somebody new.
You know,
That
I mean,
won't-
Reyes.
we
So
need-
not only that,
And Reyes, that's what we've
Right.
got. Right
I'm
now.
also curious to see he fucked himself up when he did that worm, dude.
He did.
He really did because although he was like, I'm
tried
okay,
to play it off.
post fight, he hurt himself bad. He had to have surgery.
That shoulder
Right.
was
He had surgery.
dislocated
Doing the worm.
and all kinds
He
of
had
fucked up.
surgery.
Yeah.
Hey, dancing's not for you,
No.
So
Just raise your hand.
stick to backflipping people in the face.
Wave to the crowd.
Hit
That's
the
about it
wall,
for you.
jumping backflip kick.
What's the same thing with what's his face doing the backflip off the
Gaethje.
cage?
Yeah,
Gaethje.
I was just
I'm like,
thinking
you're
about
gonna
that.
blow your knee out or something at some point.
Yeah.
Not only
Gaethje
are you
fell
doing
on
a
his fucking
backflip, which
face.
is dangerous,
You're doing it 10
after
feet in the
being
air.
punched in the head dozens upon dozens of times.
Do you remember the time Gaethje fell?
Yeah.
Because that was
Because
hilarious.
he was concussed, most likely.
Yeah.
Backflip also. Oh my god, his coach. Like that's terrible coaching.
You
right
got
there.
it. You can't let him.
You
do
Brad,
that.
gotta
who-
sit
who
that
you
guy
got in
down
this?
and.
In Johnny Walker, Corey Anderson. In all seriousness, Johnny Walker's gonna land something crazy because that's what he does, and
Yep.
he's gonna sleep
I
Corey
agree.
Anderson.
Yeah, but Corey ain't no bitch.
Corey ain't no
Yeah,
bitch, but neither
definitely
were the last
not,
three
but-
guys that Johnny Walker slept with something insane.
It's true.
Who
That
you got
kid's
here,
on
Nick?
fire.
Who you got in this
And
fight?
Johnny Walker has that. Remember when John Jones was coming up and he just did shit and people went down?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind
That's
of what
exactly
Johnny
what
Walker
he's got
does.
going. He's got that aura behind him.
Yeah.
Magic right now.
But
He
what Zach
doesn't
says, the
have
magic,
the
yes.
The
wrestling,
magic.
that
In
little
mi-
touch of
in
destiny.
mixed martial arts, man, the magic is
But
real.
he's so explosive, man. He doesn't.
He
It's
doesn't
almost
have
like-
submissions like John had.
No. But he's so explosive that he doesn't really have to worry about the ground because everybody that shoots on him, he's gonna sprawl so fucking hard they don't even know what hit him.
If he doesn't knee him in the dome.
If he doesn't knock their head into the stands. And Nick, so you got Corey Anderson or Johnny Walker?
Johnny Walker, and it's just hard to see because I've seen Corey Anderson get clocked a lot, and with a guy whose chin is so suspect, even if he has phenomenal skills, when he can't take that just one shot, and Johnny Walker's been sleeping people, it's just hard to imagine any other outcome than Johnny Walker getting an early knockout with the confidence that he has right now, and I do think we're going to see him fight
I
John
think
Jones.
the only way that doesn't happen is if that shoulder is really compromised.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is possible, but we'll have to see.
I hope Corey Anderson proves me wrong, but I do think that Johnny Walker is
what
going to go
about
and starch
Stephen
him.
Thompson fighting Vicente. I mean,
Oh
Well,
man,
let's get all our picks. You got? Do we all have
I think
Johnny
we're
Walker
Johnny
by
Walker across the board.
Johnny
Yeah.
Walker
Death.
across the board for sure.
Murder.
By
Death,
death, yeah.
murder, death, kill, back
By
fist
manslaughter,
punch?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I got.
By us.
So,
By about 5 to 10.
Speaking
So
of
Stephen
speaking of
Thompson's
speaking of
on the side.
manslaughter, Vicente Luque versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson.
Wonder was on the slide recently.
He's
Chin's
been
kind of gone.
It's the first time
he-
we've seen him
There's
since
a guy
March.
who lost his magic, right?
Yeah.
Wonderboy's the guy that's kind of losing his magic. Everybody's figuring him out after those Woodley fights, right? Then you
Yeah.
got a guy like Vicente Luque, the steroid kid. You know, he's beat on Yoel. That was a great fight. Put the pressure on Yoel. Hurt him a few times, I believe.
Are we thinking of the right guy, Brock?
That's Vicente, right? No, sorry.
You're thinking of Paulo Costa,
Paulo
right?
Costa.
Yeah.
My bad.
That's
Yeah.
the
Oh,
steroid
okay,
kid.
here we go. He's got Mike Perry,
beat Mike
Derek
Perry.
Krantz.
Yeah.
and
Brian
Brian
Barberina's the
Barberina.
one that we were very, very
Yeah.
sad about.
War. So,
Oh, man,
Vicente
that was
Luque,
was it
this
third
is an
round?
interesting guy because
He's on
Vicente
the come up.
Luque, he built his career in the UFC, and he literally came into UFC with like a 500 record. I think he was like 6-6, and
Right.
built his winning record in the Ultimate Fighting Championship, which is amazing.
Well, let's
But-
see here. He has a win, a knockout over Bilal Muhammad,
Yep.
submission
I was
over
there for that
Nico
one.
Price, KO over Chad Laprise, knockout over my boy Jalen Turner. That one hurt. TKO over Brian Barberina. I think that was in the third round.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he's got
and
a
he,
pretty good record.
that was a tough fight.
He's been building himself up
Wonder
pretty
Boy.
well.
He's losing
Wonder
his.
Boy's chin might be a little compromised.
Wonder Boy's getting slower.
So
That's the
this
problem.
was this is the first time we're seeing Wonder Boy since Pettis knocked him out in March.
I mean, he took some bombs
Yeah.
from Woodley.
It's one of those
He
things.
didn't go out on him,
It's
but
like living through H-bombs.
right.
This is one of these fights where you have the seasoned perennial contender in Wonder Boy versus a guy who's trying to make a name for himself.
I usually go with the up and comer.
Yeah.
I'll go with Vicente on this one.
I'm on Luque on this one too.
Yeah.
I think he's got the explosivity and he's just got that. He's on that run, and it's all about the going on that run. And I mean, of course, Wonder Boy can turn back the clock and be Wonder Boy and fucking style on him.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen it from Wonder Boy recently.
Yeah.
No.
And Wonder Boy's
And he's not going to
wrestling's
sleep
gotten
Luque.
better.
He's not going to sleep him.
Probably not.
He's definitely not going to try to grapple with him, and he's not going to sleep him.
I mean, this is
He's
you
going to
know,
have to win a decision.
Wonder Boy's been in the game for a while now.
and Wonder
you know,
Boy's
remember
style
he
isn't
cut his
conducive
teeth.
to winning decisions.
He cut his teeth knocking out Johnny Hendricks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which was like a long time ago at this
That
point.
question mark kid.
But that was a
Right.
steroid, Johnny Hen.
And that was a steroid Johnny Hendricks. Which is true.
Well, it's hard to say what I think about this fight and who I think is going to win, but every time I think Wonder Boy's like down and out, he always seems to make it his fight, which,
Yep.
no offense to him, he can make a boring, chippy karate fight that favors him, and he takes the easy 3-round decision,
But
I think.
right, but at the end of the day, that's the name of the game. If
Yeah.
you win, you win.
Yeah,
and that's all
absolutely.
you're trying to
I'm
do.
not contesting that at all. If you
And
have
a lot of people don't understand
if
that.
you have a road to victory, take it.
Exactly.
I just
Take
feel like
it.
a lot has to go right for
Yeah.
Steven.
I agree.
Yeah.
with
I
you.
think it
agree
will,
with
though.
you.
I think it
Has
will.
to go
You
right.
need too many dominoes to fall in
Luke
place.
Luque has
to
power,
get away with
but
it.
he doesn't have the striking that Pettis does. He doesn't have the explosive front movement that he does. He does have some takedowns, some jiu-jitsu, but I don't think it's going to be a factor.
Mush Steven up
Yeah.
against the cage.
I don't think that's going to
that
happen though.
neutralizes a lot of Steven's game.
The first fight I saw with Vicente Luque, I think, was the Jalen Turner fight. That one hurt because I like Jalen Turner a lot. But I started keeping like that guy in the back of my head, like, man, this guy might, this guy's he's gonna be somebody. He's gonna be there one day. Then the Brian Barberina fight. I'm a big fan of Brian. They were killed. It was a war.
It was a war.
War. I believe it was the third round, damn near the end of the third round too, and he just got dropped with the net. Like, I mean, he folded him up like a lawn chair when he got hit. It was
Yeah, he's got power.
just it hurt seeing that
He's got
happen.
power, and
but it made me
Stevens-
respect
Stevens'
Luque.
chin's going the wrong direction. It's
Yeah.
not a
Right.
good-
I think this is going
Not
to
a good
be
matchup.
Luque's coming out party.
Especially the
for
way
most
Luque, especially the way that he fights.
Yeah,
He can
I mean,
hit
he could
hard and he
definitely-
can pressure, and Steven does not like that. He needs to be the guy pressuring you. If you're marching down Steven, he doesn't like it.
No.
He has to be the one charging you, and he has to be in control of the distance. When you take away that distance control from him, he has a very tough time gauging fights.
Yeah. So then we got Derek. My balls are hot. Lewis.
Against Blagoy Ivanov.
Yep.
This is one of those where we talk about momentum and the magic. Obviously, Derek Lewis doesn't really have it right now. And if you consider the level of competition he's gone against, then you can't really hold much against him. His last loss was against Junior Dos Santos, and before that was against DC for the heavyweight belt. So I'm not knocking him for those
And
losses,
then that
but
awful fight with
Francis Ngannou.
Francis
Oh,
Ngannou.
yeah.
The
So
fight that we all thought was going to be the barn burner of the year, and it turned out to be the worst fight of the year.
They were scared of each other. That's what it was.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that really raises the question: what form of Derek Lewis are we going to see in this fight? Because we got a guy
Flip a coin,
in
man.
Blagoy Ivanov. I remember his past couple fights. He's on a little bit of a tear right now.
Beating Rothwell by decision,
Yep.
beating Tai Tuivasa by decision.
And Ty's good.
Has a win over Sean
Ty's
Jordan
decent.
by
Decent. I mean,
TKO.
we just saw Ty, win by.
No, he just lost again.
Did Ty just lose?
Yeah, Ty just got
By
knocked out.
that vicious knockout. That's
Yeah.
right.
Vicious
That's right on
knockout,
that
yeah.
guy that Dana White brought up
Yeah.
on that show. That's true.
So my phone's not pulling it up right now. He lost to Junior Dos Santos, and he's undefeated since then.
Who's that?
Ivanov.
So Ivanov,
Yeah, he's on a
Yep.
two
So-
fight streak since JDS.
right? JDS beats him by decision. Then he beats Rothwell by decision. Beats Tuivasa by decision. Now he's got Derek Lewis. I think
Probably another
Ivanov.
decision win.
Ivanov's one of those guys that is just such a savage, and he's gonna bring everything that Derek's gonna bring. I don't know if I can really pick one, but if I had to, I'm gonna
What
go
you
with
do
my
right
boy
now?
Derek Lewis
Third round
coming
KO.
back
I mean,
with
I
a
want
KO.
Derek
That's
to
where
win.
I'm at.
I want Derek to win just for
The post-fight interview.
I think we all can agree we want Derek Lewis to win.
He's
Derek
definitely
Lewis-
a fan favorite. He's got the best Instagram of any UFC
Oh,
fighter.
the best Instagram.
That guy's
and then
crazy.
end the sentence right there.
Yeah.
But like Derek Lewis is also the king of the last minute.
You think Ronda will be watching?
KO. Oh yeah, she's curious. You know.
You think Ronda will be watching the fight? Watching her?
Do you
boy-
think
run
it,
around
do you
and
think
fire,
it
that's that.
do you think it pisses her off to watch that fight with Travis Brown?
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope it pisses. Yeah, right.
I want to see them fight next.
I mean, she probably
Joe Ronda by
She
armbar.
probably hates watching that as much as she loves watching Brandon Schaub get knocked out
By Travis,
by her
yeah.
husband now.
Watching her ex get knocked out by
Oh
her
my God.
husband.
Yep.
What a dark place. I mean, Brandon must have been in after that fight.
Right.
So,
Beat up by your girlfriend's new boyfriend. That stings.
That's rough.
my thing is, if you show up and fight smart against Derek Lewis, I think it's a very winnable fight regardless. And what I've seen of Ivanov, he is a smart fighter. He doesn't get into dumb brawls. He doesn't do any of this.
We know Derek gets tired.
Yes. I think Derek Lewis is kind of on the decline. As much as I hate to say this, I think he's going to lose a 3-round decision.
I would agree.
Yeah.
I think Ivanov will probably edge one out.
I'm with Brock. He's gonna fucking flatline
I hope
this
you're right,
Russian
man. I
motherfucker
really
at
hope
the
you're
end of the
right.
fight.
I
Look,
mean,
Ivanov's
Savage
gotten
uppercut or
stabbed in
something?
the stomach.
One of
son.
them.
Right.
All right,
Oh,
you don't
yeah.
get stabbed in the stomach in Bulgaria at that and not be a bad motherfucker.
I mean, that shit can't be good for your cardio, though.
Yeah, but he's got that power gut. You know, so does Derek.
So-
So the power gut. This fight does not go longer than a round and a half, or the winner is like a Wheaties bot. Like I don't know
I'm
who
gonna
wins
say,
it.
man, that's the thing is we always think these big heavyweight fights are going to end quick, but the problem is if they get out of the first round, those guys get tired.
That's what I'm
and
saying.
All we see is a hold each other.
Well, then you
3-round
have-
decision.
Then you have who is that Dada 5000 and Kimbo.
Oh, God.
Where he
Yo
literally
had a heart attack
he
in the
died.
cage.
He died. No heartbeat. Dead. In the cage. That's how bad his health was.
Yeah, and I mean,
That's some of these
Derek
heavyweights,
Lewis
man. Not all of
and
them.
Ivanov are not those guys. These
Yeah.
guys are both athletes. And they'll
That's
be
what we
very
always talk
capable
about,
of
levels to
fighting.
this game.
But
You,
it's
you
like-
think those guys are out of
They're
shape, and then you see
still-
Kimbo and Dada, and
Exactly.
you realize that's out of shape.
Right,
you know?
that's out of shape. These
Yeah.
guys are in shape, but they're not Daniel Cormier.
Out of shape. Who did fucking Jack Swagger fight? Why does he keep getting fights against guys I could beat in the cage?
First
you wanna
off,
know why?
First off, can we apologize to that guy's ball sack? Did anybody see that last night?
I didn't.
Jake Hager need this dude in the nuts. The
As he's going
first
for a
one-
double leg.
The first one's iffy, right? Second one, plum clinch, straight up, splits the,
Oh, why gotta be like
splits
that?
the roots
Splits the upright.
so bad
And good.
that this guy
What is
falls
this
on
video
his
that I've been
face.
seeing going around of this guy fighting the little person?
Oh, don't even get me
Seen
started
it's
on that.
traveling around the internet.
I don't
right
even want to
now.
get. I showed
Let's
him
get
that
through the rest
earlier.
of the card and then we'll
Okay.
talk bullshit.
So that's the end of the main card. What I wanted to talk about, a fight that happened last night as well.
No, it's not the end of the main card. We still got Kevin Lee and Gregor Gillespie.
We
Is that
got
on here? I did-
Andrei Arlovsky and
See, it's all over the place, but we definitely need to talk about Arlovsky, and we definitely
alright,
need to talk about
so-
Kevin Lee and Gregor Gillespie.
let's hit on this last one real quick. Kevin Lee, Gregor Gillespie or Gillespie?
Gillespie.
Gillespie. Okay.
Yeah.
The fisherman.
Yep.
Man's a fucking monster.
I like
Yes.
both of these guys. I've been a fan of
good.
Kevin longer. Gregor, I found out about him more recently. Maybe it was the Madero's fight that I found out about him. Very recently, I found out about this guy, but I've been a fan of Kevin since he got into the UFC, I believe, or around then. I kind of found out about him. I'm a big fan of both of these guys. Gregor can grapple his ass off. Kevin can grapple his ass off. They can both wrestle very well. In my opinion, I'm gonna pick Kevin Lee in the hopes that wherever he's training now, I believe he's in Canada.
in
right?
TriStar.
He's at
Oh,
TriStar,
Ooh,
right?
for
I
us,
did
okay.
not
So
know that.
I'm gonna hope. I'm picking Kevin Lee in the hopes that he is able to reinvent himself with Faraz Zahabi, and he's able to come back and be the Kevin Lee that we know. Although I never think he was diminished at any point. I just think he had so much going on with his life with his last coach.
His
Yeah.
last
After
coach
he
and
lost
his
his-
father.
Right after he lost his last fight,
Right
his
before his
coach,
last fight.
I think it was the Tony fight. Right after the Tony fight, his coach killed himself.
Yeah, and on the
And
anniversary,
the anniversary
on the anniversary of his suicide, he lost Ally Quint in a close
Right.
decision. That was
So
remember the
he's
Christmas
just-
party? Yeah.
Right, he's just not necessarily been in a good spot.
Yeah, he's had a lot
He-
happen in his life.
And let's
Right.
be honest, Tony Ferguson, the murderer of murderers right now.
Exactly.
And he had staff in that fight.
And he
Yes.
had staff. And
So-
so, fight the boogeyman? Oh, God.
According to when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast after the Dos Anjos fight, he did a lot of soul searching as far as what gym he wanted to be a part of. He went all over the place. He went to Greg Jackson's to try them out. Went here, went there, went there. And I think TriStar is a good fit for almost everybody on the UFC roster.
I agree.
Especially someone who's a grappling base like him.
Sure.
It's
I
going
mean,
to
look
be...
what they were able to. GSP is such a good example, and
they
I don't
have
even
such
necessarily.
close ties to Danaher and
Yeah.
Henzos.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's the best place that he can be, in my opinion, because the level of striking coming out of that gym is about as high as you can get. The level of grappling coming out of that gym is about as high as you can get. GSP still on the regular flies into New York, goes into New York. I don't know if he has a place there or what the deal is, but he's regularly at Henzo's training in the Blue Basement. What does that tell you? Not only is he getting the MMA base and MMA wrestling and MMA grappling, because Firas Zahabi's a genius when it comes to grappling. Like I don't know if you've watched him roll with guys.
Definitely
He's a
subscribe to all
genius.
Feroz's stuff.
He's a genius. And on top of that, he's getting the Danaher and Henzo. He's getting to roll with guys like Gordon on the regular, Gordon Ryan.
And Feroz seems like a guy who, is all in when it comes to coaching high-level MMA.
It's his
He
life.
doesn't have anything else that he's like that seems distracted. Like we've all heard rumors now of Greg Jackson not being at the gym, and stuff like that, and it's might be kind of checked out as far as really developing new fighters
For the
and
love
all,
of it,
and
yeah.
for the love of it potentially. But for us, I mean, that guy just lives.
He's there every day training with his amateur fighters, with his pro fighters. He tries to make everybody the best that they can be. It's
So I'm
not
gonna go
like a
with-
normal gym where you got GSP's here. I'm gonna go work with GSP. No, I'm gonna work with GSP. I'm gonna work with this amateur guy who's trying to get into the UFC. I'm gonna work with this guy who's trying to get signed just as much as I'm teaching this guy.
So I'm gonna go Kevin Lee decision.
I could agree with that. I don't think they're gonna finish each other necessarily.
I'm still on Gregor. I think he's just a different level.
And he's undefeated right now, right?
He's
Yes.
13-0.
Yep.
He is a ridiculous monster wrestler. He
is.
moves crazy well.
But so is Kevin.
Yeah, I agree. I
Yep.
like Gregor a little bit better. I think
I feel you.
Yeah, I can see.
He can out-wrestle Kevin.
either way.
Yeah, I think now I didn't know about all the TriStar with Kevin, but I know Gregor's up in that area too, getting that same.
He's an
sort of
animal.
group.
Oh, he's an
But
animal.
Gregor
He's got a
is
great team
monster.
around him.
He goes and trains with Olympic and college level wrestlers. Like he is a monster. He is too good to not be known, and he isn't.
Well, Kevin
And
Lee's a name, so just like
that's why I like this fight. and
Yeah.
I'll
Win or
give him
lose,
for him.
if it's a good fight,
gonna
it's a
be a
good
great-
you
fight,
get noticed.
gonna be
if it's a
scrap,
back if
that's
it's a
for
back
sure.
and forth fight, even if Gregor loses, it still elevates him. It's one of those situations where, Calvin didn't win the interim belt. Calvin wasn't able to go fight for fight in Australia, fight for the belt. He wasn't able to fight Whitaker, right? Because he lost that fight.
But he still gained a lot of
But
respect.
everybody,
Clout.
everybody that watched that fight, they were elevated. They elevated him in their minds, and they gained a new respect for him from that fight. Yeah, he lost, but he didn't really lose anything. You know what I mean? He lost the fight, but he didn't lose any respect. If anything, he gained popularity and gained respect, which could happen in this fight. Not on as
any
high of
fight,
a level, but
anytime that you have a fight like that and you gain a lot of notoriety and pay-per-view buys, you know what I mean? When it comes to negotiating the next contract, Kelvin will definitely be able to use that fight as an example of why he needs to be paid more.
for sure.
definitely.
So that is the main card, including the top prelim,
Maybe the top prelim also. We don't know.
the Corey Anderson. John
Well,
Walker
the
fight.
last one I want to touch on, Caitlin Chukagan, out of New York, training with Henzo and all those guys. Danaher, she's there regularly.
She's on the prelims, right?
She's on the early prelims,
She has a
the UFC
fight
Fight Pass
against
ones.
She's fighting
Jennifer
Jennifer
Maya.
Maia, right?
Correct. Who has a win over Alexis Davis. Who has a win over Roxanne Modafari.
Oh, my girl Roxy
This is 125, right?
Actually beat her twice.
has 2 wins over Roxy.
Right. Yes, this
Andrei
is
Arlovsky's fighting this
125.
card too.
Yeah.
Orlovsky's on the prelims. Yeah,
Prelims
he's
fighting
the
some guy
main
I've never
prelim.
heard of. God,
Right.
How old is
So,
Arlovsky at this point?
Brock, touching on this Chukagan fight, this is at 125 pounds. That division is wide open. It really is. And, Shevchenko might be one of the best champions
Yeah, I don't-
among the women.
I think the division is wide open, but I think the top of it's pretty secure.
Yeah.
Shevchenko I don't know that there's someone at 25 that can beat Shevchenko right now.
Yeah.
I agree with you on that one. And
There are some
I don't think
fights
Chukagin's
for
the
her.
one to do that either. She's a
Not
great
yet.
fighter, but she's
Chukagin's
definitely not the one to
on
do
her way
that.
up, but you've got at 25 you've got Macy Barber coming.
She's with a
She's
vengeance.
very good.
And she's hot as shit.
Very good. Also, very attractive. Paige Van Zant's on her way back, and even hotter somehow now with her red hair. You've got.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
Oh well, the titties aren't new anymore.
They're not new. That's true.
The titties have been there.
It definitely wasn't that off-road bumper up front. That 3-inch lift up front. That's not what it was.
I mean, the titties are great. Don't get me wrong.
But I'm interested to see Chukagin make a name for herself, and I do think she can get a shot at the title.
She could be a contender in for 3 or 4 fights. It's a women's division. It's small.
First team all body.
I mean,
So we're gonna wrap this up soon. One last thing I wanted to touch on was last night Douglas Lima won his Bellator welterweight championship back from Rory McDonald.
Yep.
It was a little more dominant this time. I think 50-45 of 2 judges' scorecards for this fight.
How many times have they fought now? Is this
Twice.
Twice? Okay.
Yes, so
So
1 and
twice.
1.
Second
So
fight.
a couple questions.
2 really great fights.
Everybody brings this up every time somebody does good outside of the UFC is, will they do good in the UFC? So with a stacked welterweight division like the one we have in the UFC, do you guys think Douglas Lima would survive in the Shark Tank?
I'm
going
going
to
to call Douglas Lima at the minimum top 5.
Yeah.
I'd say you might be a little low. I think he's a top 3 guy.
Yeah.
He could be.
That's why I'm saying minimum.
He could
minimum
be the
top
man.
5.
Rory.
So?
Definitely.
Rory, for at least at a certain point in time, at his peak, Rory was the best 170-pound guy there was.
And he's
on
still,
the
in my
ground.
opinion, maybe
And
top
Rory
5.
is good.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got, we've got Colby and Usman. That's about what I can think of that are ahead of Lima in my mind right
Okay.
now.
Woodley, maybe.
Maybe Woodley.
Woodley, I don't think.
Woodley's trying to rap right now,
Exactly.
so he's not.
Woodley's
Woodley
there
can rap,
mentally.
though.
Woodley's too busy going on
But
TMZ.
Skills-wise, Woodley has the skills, but I think he's checked out as far as.
He's
know,
making his money elsewhere, and he's
also-
not getting beat on.
This
So he's
also
all right
reminds
with that.
me of a thing that you said earlier about Askren. Maybe if he was in the UFC maybe
Earlier.
10 years ago,
Yeah.
he might have been more successful. And I might disagree because 10 years ago, you were dealing with GSP and Rory coming up, and you still had Woodley there. You had all these guys that I don't know that Askren fares much better against if he had been in the UFC all this time.
I think the athletes today are better than the athletes back then.
I agree.
I'm saying that a
And that's
lot of
always
these
the
guys
case,
are the
right?
guys there, though.
Woodley, Usman, and Colby, like those guys got.
With the exception
cardio
of
and
George
shit
St.
that-
Pierre, because he was such a rare specimen.
Right.
Like he would,
and
he
he
would
still
be,
holds up today.
Yeah, it would hold up more today. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
You know that
he
George
still
St.
would
Pierre
be
is
the
the
top.
same age as Tyron Woodley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
You
know,
got to
this-
remember, because when he came in, GSP was very young,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh, yeah.
he went on a rampage. Just
beating everybody.
his whole career was at such a young age, and it's like in your mind you think, man, this guy's done so much. Well, damn, he's 30. Or,
Never
he's
had a loss he
34.
didn't avenge.
Exactly.
One of the
And
most
only-
impressive things
only
to
really
me
took-
about GSP.
He's the GOAT.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure.
Didn't
for
take
sure.
a lot of big shots through his
No,
career.
never really took
obviously
damage,
got
right?
And
hit
when
by
he
Matt Serra,
and when he
that was
did
about
take
it.
big shots, he learned from it, changed his style, and didn't really take big shots again.
And that's
until
what
the
excites me
Hendricks
about
fight.
Kevin Lee being with Faraz is that he's such a mastermind, and he's
Mm-hmm.
so good at molding guys into what really making a guy what he should be, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's not trying to, he's not a cookie cutter gym where he's gonna say, hey, I need all you guys to fight Muay Thai. I need everybody in here
Mm-hmm.
to fight Muay Thai and give me some takedown defenses. He's gonna take every single one of the fighters that he has and make their own game plan, right?
Make them the best version of what they
Exactly. He picks out the things that make each person good. So he picked everything out about GSP that made GSP what he was, and what, like, he was so talented. He took all that and he made it better. And he knew what he did and didn't have to improve. I don't want to say didn't have to improve on, but certain things he was going to work harder with than others. With Kevin Lee, there's not many holes in his game, if really any. He's still a really young guy. He's got plenty of fight in him. I think that's what is going to elevate him as well as what it did with GSP. And even if he loses this fight, he's only going to get better, because
Yeah,
this
I
gives
agree.
this gives Faraz the opportunity to one-on-one work with the guy, see what happens when you have a connection with a coach and you're actually coached by them. That there's a certain level of understanding that you guys have without even saying anything, that you know what needs to be done almost. That coach sees something that you might not see yourself, and you know what to get done. You can watch so much tape on somebody, but until you train with them every day and see what they got going on, get in the cage with them, you're not really going to know how they are and really know what they need. And Faraz is probably, in my opinion, the best at doing that to guys.
And pulling out, a guy's talent.
Exactly. He pulls all the talent out of somebody that he possibly can. And then those guys work so hard that talent to them isn't really even a word they use. Like they work so hard. They don't. I'm not gonna say it's not like they don't believe in talent, but it's like
No, I got you.
anybody can go there and look talented,
Right.
Sure.
if they train with them enough, because he's so good at making people good at what they should be good at or what
Right.
they are good at.
So I'm going to end on one more question. Obviously, on the other end of this, Rory McDonald losing his title, and it seems like mentally mainly, and I guess physically, he's been on a little bit of a decline. Obviously,
all over the place.
yeah,
Yeah, a little bit.
Went to a majority draw with John Fitch. I'm not taking anything away from John Fitch, but
Fitch
I
is
think
good.
prime Rory McDonald should have handled John
Should've
Fitch.
beat John
Fair.
Fitch.
Well,
Top form.
Agree,
again,
Jesus.
So
A lot of wear and tear on Rory McDonald.
yes, he's
Whole
been
lot.
he's been through wars.
Hitting
So
a lot of them.
do you guys think we'll see World Championship tier Rory McDonald again, or is this the beginning
that
of a
might be
decline?
it, man.
Yeah.
This
Sure,
might be
in
it.
Bellator we could.
I think
but the
Rory
talent
might-
isn't quite as stacked in Bellator
Yeah.
as it is in
I
UFC.
think Rory might be close to done. He keeps talking about how much he's getting into his deepening faith, as much as we want to make fun of him for that or whatever. That's his life choice, and if he feels better doing that, I
Well,
find
that,
it
and he's
weird
got
that
kids
he gets
now, right?
Yeah, he got
He's got a
married. He
kid
has
or two,
kids,
he's
and he likes
married, he-
Jesus now. He's got all that going on.
Well, he matured a lot, and I think I would probably say after the Robbie fight,
After the Robbie fight, it was
it
a different
changed
guy.
him because both of them. You can really say both of them were changed after that fight.
Oh, then
Neither
you-
one of them were the same.
You can't get into a fight like that.
They
and not
both
lose a
took
piece of
so
yourself.
much damage in that fight that they're just not the same person anymore.
For real.
And I don't even necessarily mean mentally, but just physically, and they're not going to be able to. Their body took so much damage, they just can't. You can't recover from that.
And before Nick takes us out, just want to thank everybody for listening. Please like, share, and subscribe, and spread this all around to all your friends.
What's our
We here
Twitter
at
handle for the
Time.
Mad Time Podcast? Is it
At Matt Time Pod.
at Mad Time Pod on Twitter?
Matt Time Pod on YouTube.
Yep.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
And until next time, we'll see you on the mats.